came to participate. We all have different sets of values and beliefs and what we want to happen in our lives and in our communities. And the key to our candidates is finding the candidate that meets most closely what you desire to happen in your community and in our state. And hopefully tonight, you will find some of those answers. But I encourage you, if you do not find the answer that you're looking for tonight where it concerns these candidates, dig further and dig deeper. We've been through so much with Hurricane Florence and before Florence, Matthew. It is more important than ever that we know what our candidates stand for and what they're going to do. So listen closely. I hope you've submitted questions. And again, if you don't get the answers you're looking for tonight, contact the chamber, contact the candidates directly, and find out the answers that you're looking for. Now we will turn it over to Jonathan Medford.
All right, so I'm here on behalf of the Columbus Jobs Foundation to speak a few words on the quarter-cent sales tax for education that's going to be on the ballot in November. And I think everybody's aware that the state of North Carolina is responsible for covering the salaries of our teachers. But the Columbus County government is responsible for making sure that the teachers have a place where these teachers can teach the students. And what we ask of our teachers oftentimes is that we want them to teach 21st century education in 20th century classrooms. And that's just the situation that they find themselves in. So one of the issues with that is the county being responsible for this is property owners are flipping the burden, the tax burden for school buildings and maintenance for the schools. Raising the sales tax by 1/4 penny raises over $1 million for capital improvement projects in our schools. If you were to raise property taxes by 3 cents, it wouldn't even come close to what it does with the sales tax. The sales tax is the most fair tax because everybody in our society contributes to it. It's so small that you won't even notice it. If you were to go to lunch and you were to spend $10, 2 cents of that meal would go for the schools. But those pennies really add up to make a big impact on our students. New Hanover County and Robeson County have already passed this sales tax for education. Brunswick County is going to be voting on it in November. And the resolution has failed here 3 times before. And one of the things I kind of find frustrating about that, some of the voters that are going to go to the polls and they'll vote against this in November are the same people that won't have a problem going to Wilmington, go out a night on the town, go for a movie, eat at a nice restaurant, do a little bit of shopping, and support the students that are in New Hanover County schools. But yet we can't do that here. I think we can. I think we should. Whiteville, Chadbourn, Tabor City, we all receive a ton of beach traffic coming into our county during the peak time, during the peak summer months. Those people that come in through our county should be contributing to our education system as well. They can if we pass this sales tax. I think I'm asking everybody to please support the 1/4 cent sales tax for education. It's going to be the last item on the ballot. Thank you very much.
Good evening, I'm Les High. I'm the moderator of tonight's event. We were together in April and had a tremendous forum, and I'm sure tonight will be no different. Many of you most of you should have gotten guidelines in the mail or by email. We'll go over the ground rules just really quickly. You'll have a couple minutes to answer questions. You'll have Jenny will be up front. She'll have a sign, and there'll be a bell. And when you see the sign of 15 seconds, try to wrap it up. You'll have a minute to do an opening statement and 2 minutes to answer your questions. You can have notes, but no signs or anything like that in the audience. Again, this is not a debate, it's a forum, and There will not be any interaction with the audience or among the candidates. And basically just behave, and we'll be good. And I fully expect that'll happen. Tonight, this is actually a pretty good crowd. I've been the news reporter for 35 years, and you never have huge crowds at forums. And this is a pretty good crowd, but also this is being live streamed by SEC. It's on Facebook Live, and Alan Turner's here with the news reporter. He'll cover this extensively in Friday's paper. So it will actually generate a tremendous amount of coverage for the candidates. And a reminder that early voting starts tomorrow. I probably don't have to remind many of you of that, as a matter of fact. So, whoops. So, with that said, we got a lot of good questions this year. And what you're going to see, we obviously couldn't get all of them. Some are specific, some are more general. And we got enough questions that we even tried to combine even in one question, maybe two questions, so we could get as many of your questions in as possible. So to start with, however, we're going to have candidates who are unopposed. We'll have a 1-minute statement. I know I saw Jess Hill here, Charles McDowell is here. There may be others who are unopposed, to give them an opportunity for just a minute to come to the podium and any statement you'd like to make.
All right. Good evening, everybody. I'm Jess Hill, and I'm clerk of court here. I've been honored to be the clerk of court for the past 4 years. I am running unopposed this year, but I don't take that for granted. I just wanted to come tonight and give you the opportunity to thank you all personally for the support you've given me and my family these past 4 years. It means the world to me, and I'm humbled by it. I also want to take a chance real quick before my minute's up to thank all the candidates that are here tonight that have offered themselves up for public office. It's a huge sacrifice sometimes for a lot of them, but I want to tell them to the next couple of weeks just to enjoy it. I enjoy my position. I enjoy working for the people. It's a pledge that I made a couple of years ago. So my only advice over the next couple of days is just to enjoy. Get out there, enjoy working the polls. I appreciate everybody. If there's ever anything I can do for anybody, please don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you very much. God bless each and every one of you.
I knew I should have gone first. He said exactly what I was going to say. But I am Charles McDowell, and I do represent District 7 and have for the last 2 terms. And it's been an honor and a privilege to do that. I am a retired educator, so I want to speak just a little bit about this quarter-cent sales tax. I've taught in the county school system for 32 years. I was fortunate enough to teach at 3 different schools. I started out at Medelco, which at that time was an old school. Made it to Hallsboro. They transferred me to Coach, once again an older school, but was fortunate to be in the North building, as we called it, which was a newer building. And then was moved to East Columbus, a new school, and retired there. Believe what you want to believe. A new school, a modern school, makes a difference. If you spend $100 in this county, and we pass this quarter-cent sales tax, it costs you a whopping quarter. A quarter. So with that in mind, please speak to those that you know might be a little concerned about, the word tax, because this is not a serious tax. And with what Jonathan said, it would take 3.5 cents property tax increase to equal this money. So please consider supporting it. Speak to those that you have influence with to support it. Thank you. And I know I went over, I always do.
All right, thanks, guys. All right, so we're going to do our forum in this order tonight. The 7th District Congressional race, followed by the NC House and Senate races, and there'll be 6 of those folks, and we'll combine all those in the same group for questioning in the interest of time. County Commissioner, Sheriff's race, County School Board, and then the City School Board, and they've got an at-large race and a District 1 race, and we'll group those together too. So if If Dr. Kyle Horton and Representative David Rouser will come up, we'll get started with you guys. Jenny, just have a seat here in the middle. Is that the best? Yes. Okay. So everyone will get an opening statement, and Dr. Horton, since you're first alphabetically, you get a minute to make an opening statement.
I'm Dr. Kyle Horton, and I am running because you should know that my brand of leadership is that I have a servant's heart. If service is beneath you, then leadership is above you. It's been the honor of my life to take care of veterans. I'm an internal medicine doctor who near tragically lost patients to delays in care. And that's part of why I got engaged in politics, because stories like my family's, where my great-grandparents had a small tobacco farm in eastern Kentucky, and my parents began their careers on the factory floor. But in 2 generations, we had a solid footing in the middle class because we used to invest in good-paying jobs and making sure that we strengthened public education and invested in building opportunity for all. So I am fundamentally running because I want to stand up for the everyday North Carolinians who deserve more than and better than Washington gridlock and obstruction and career politicians. This is also why I am not supporting Nancy Pelosi as Speaker and will be part of a new generation for change in Washington. Thank you.
David, would you like to make a statement?
Well, first, let me say it's a great pleasure to be in Columbus County as always. And this area in particular, and in fact all throughout the 7th Congressional District, has really suffered tremendously due to the damage inflicted by Hurricane Florence. And I can assure you we are going to continue to work to make sure that we have a good, robust, long-term recovery. And let me stress it's going to be long-term. Anytime you have the flooding of the magnitude that we've had, and of course here in this area we experienced it with Hurricane Matthew as well, it takes a while to recover. And we've been very fortunate and blessed to have an administration in place that has paid great attention to this area in the entire district, certainly since the aftermath of the storm. I've worked very hard the last 3.5, 4 years for our farm families, for our veterans, our rural towns and communities, and it's been a great honor to serve you in every way possible. Have a great, tremendous staff in place that has helped a number of folks all throughout this district, and look forward to continuing that should I have the opportunity to continue to serve you after this election in November. Thank you.
So David, you'll get the first question. You'll get the first question. And so you have 2 minutes to answer these questions instead of just 1 minute. We had a number of questions for Congress, and it was difficult to whittle them down, but here we go. So recent polling shows that health care is one of the top 3 issues in the country. 2 questions. What assurances can you give people who have pre-existing conditions that their health insurance will not be nullified? And overall, how do we lower cost and improve care at the same time?
Well, the first thing I think is important to understand is if you're going to get the very best product for the lowest possible price, you have to have transparency and you have to have competition. And in healthcare today, due to all the government regulations that are in place, you have neither. In fact, if you go to the doctor's office or you go to a hospital, most doctors can't even tell you what the cost of an MRI, for example, is from place to place. And so that's one of the big things that we need to focus on, and one of the things that the administration is working towards. Obviously, in the House a year and a half ago, we passed a health care reform bill that gave the states more autonomy and control in terms of Medicaid, and also more autonomy and control in terms of putting together high-risk pools so that those who have pre-existing conditions can get the care that they need and deserve. Meanwhile, those that have traditional health care plans, their premiums would have decreased substantially, deductibles as well, because you were taking that population base and moving them out of the healthcare system to the high-risk pool system. And so therefore, naturally, those prices would have decreased. Obviously, nothing happened in the Senate, and so the effort failed. But I think with this next Congress, you're going to see another attempt at some major reform to our healthcare.
And if you need me to repeat the question for anyone tonight, please just ask and I'll repeat the question.
This is an important question, and I've been an internal medicine doctor, and unfortunately, we spend a substantial amount of our time trying to figure out if people can import their drugs from Canada. In any given year, 1/3 of my patients might not fill a prescription that I wrote because they can't afford it. And the simple fact is that the debt crisis that's been triggered now with the tax cuts is going to make healthcare worse. They are coming after Medicare and Medicaid at a time when the opiate crisis dictates that we actually need to be expanding Medicaid in order to give folks more choices and to create a safety net for all Americans. So know that I believe that healthcare should be a fundamental right. And it is not fair that it is a privilege of the few and that folks cannot afford their basic medications. We need to protect our seniors, protect those with pre-existing conditions, period. And what we need to do is lower the Medicare eligibility age to age 50, in addition to expanding Medicaid, which will open up and take a lot of the older and patients with more chronic medical conditions so that we can stabilize the marketplaces and then negotiate better drug prices across the collective power of covering all of those millions of Americans. And that's how we'll introduce more competition and give folks more choices so we can work to a system that covers all Americans and offers them options.
Okay, Dr. Horton, you'll have the next question. The citizens look to leaders to find solutions to our problems. Given our community's many socioeconomic challenges relative to the rest of the state and the nation, what will be your top 3 economic strategies to move us forward and put us on a competitive footing? And please be specific.
Yeah, so you have to take into account what employers are looking for when they want to locate in a given area. And so there are several areas in which I think we can make direct improvements. One is investing in infrastructure. As we know, in the wake of Florence, we have a lot of roads, bridges, and dams that were structurally deficient and did not hold up in the storm. So we have got to make a major investment in infrastructure to ensure that we weather storms better, but also to bring good paying jobs. And then investments in education are investments in building opportunity, because that's also something that tech and skilled jobs look for, is do we have the labor workforce we need that's well trained? So investing in community colleges like the one we're in, thank you for hosting us this evening, is critically important as well. And then as we look towards our future economy, it's critical that we also make investments in healthcare, because healthcare is one of the fastest growing industries as folks are aging. But then it's also important, as a last note, that we not cripple the economy in the way that we have risked a lot with the tariffs and impending changes in trade policy. So I am deeply concerned that a lot of our agriculture will suffer with what's been going on, because pork, soybeans, and tobacco are highly dependent on foreign markets. And so know that I'm committed to making sure that we grow all these industries, protect the jobs that we have, but also make critical investments for the future that ensure that we attract the kind of clean industries and jobs that we want here in Eastern North Carolina. Thank you.
Would you mind repeating the question?
I thought you might. The citizens look to leaders to find solutions to our problems. Given our community's many socioeconomic challenges relative to the rest of the state and the nation, what will be your top 3 economic strategies to move us forward and put us on competitive footing? And please be specific.
Well, thank you for the question, and I think it's a very good one. I serve on the House Agriculture Committee as well as the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. I was very fortunate to land both of those committee assignments. It is rare to be able to do so, but we were able to achieve that. And from that platform, I have done a lot to help our farm families, and in fact, we're in the middle of rewriting the Farm Bill right now. Should have it completed by the end of the year. The reauthorization of that Farm Bill is incredibly important to rural communities, and not just from an agricultural standpoint, but from a rural development standpoint. So that's a key point there. On the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, We deal with almost everything you can imagine from an infrastructure standpoint, and we are very intent on moving forward with a major infrastructure bill. The President is very much dedicated to that. This past Congress, we spent a lot of political capital on health care, on tax reform, regulatory reform, rebuilding our military, improving the care for our veterans, and so many other items as well that have really helped to move this country forward. But I anticipate when we return to Congress in the next Congress in January, you're going to see a major effort on major infrastructure package. And that's not just interstates, highways, and bridges, but we're going to be looking at water and sewer, and particularly broadband. You know, all my life I've heard about the haves and the have-nots, and in these rural areas, haves are those that have access to high-speed internet, and the have-nots are those that don't have access to it. And that is something that we've got to change, and there are a number of members in addition to me who've been talking about this, and we're going to continue to work on it. The biggest challenge, of course, is you've got to find the funding. You've got to find the ways to raise the revenue to do that. And the nice thing with the tax reform package, you have a growing economy, and over the long term, you're going to see a whole lot more revenue coming into the Treasury that's going to enable us to really work on these things very diligently. Thank you.
Representative Rouse, you'll have our last question for this panel. And it's a very creative question, but it's a short one. If you were asked to talk to a class of third graders, what would you tell them?
I love the question. And that brings me back to the reason why I got involved in politics to begin with. I was a ag business, ag econ, and chemistry major at NC State. Summer of 1994, I was in a program in Prague, the Czech Republic. What was that, Jennifer? Oh, okay. She's telling me to ignore the bells. The summer of 1994, I was in a program in Prague, the Czech Republic. My roommate was from Romania. I'd lived his whole life behind the Iron Curtain. It struck me then that if you don't have your politics right, nothing else works very well either. We live in the greatest country known to mankind, no question about it. And every election is a choice of do we preserve the principles that made this country great and deserve to survive, or do we not? Over the last 2 years, folks may have their opinions about personalities and so forth, but the fact of the matter is we've put America back on the map. We're growing this economy. And though some may not be liked and others in other countries may not care for some personalities in this country, the fact of the matter is they respect them. And we are doing a lot in a lot of areas to improve the lives of every segment of the population. You've got more jobs now being produced than there are people to fill them. All-time high as of today. Black unemployment rate at the lowest level ever. Hispanic unemployment rate at the lowest level ever. That's a tremendous achievement. And that's because we're putting in place policies that are enabling people to achieve, once again, the American dream.
Thank you.
I would tell the class to be hopeful, to love and accept each other, and know that we do live in the greatest country in the world, that it's easy to forget in darker times when people are divided or partisan politics, separates us, that our kids are the future and that they can set the example for the rest of us of how we should live our lives. Because if we, ensure that they get a strong education, and if they serve their communities. I was a Girl Scout all of growing up, and it was my privilege and honor then to live by the Girl Scout law to serve others. So I would tell them to serve your community, to volunteer, be a part of cutting across these divides that are separating us, and be a part of making a difference in your parents' lives, because you will set the example for the rest of us. And consider, please, getting engaged in politics. I think a lot of people feel like, politics is all about, going to Washington and high-power meetings behind closed doors. But I think we need leaders who will engage and get in those third-grade classrooms and engage a new generation of leaders to know that they are heard, they are valued, and that I will carry them in my heart every day when we get to Capitol Hill, because Most of us in this room will be fine who are longer in the tooth, but they're the ones who are going to bear the brunt of the decisions that we make or don't make when it comes to contaminated drinking water, or when it comes to healthcare and opportunity, or when it comes to not investing in our public schools and making sure that they can afford higher education and college if they so choose, or vocational and trade schools. So I would tell them to have hope, serve your communities, and be the example as people, refuse to work across the aisle or divide others.
And you each have 1 minute to close. Dr. Horton, you can go ahead and get it started.
Yeah. I just want to close by telling you a little bit about why this race is so important to me. So as I tragically lost some of my patients, in particular, some of them I nearly lost to suicide while they were awaiting getting into mental health care. And one of them returned to the clinic to thank me, and he wanted me to meet his dad, who had been exposed to Agent Orange and nearly died with delays in care. This cannot continue. Our veterans deserve more than flag pins, promises, and parades. And when I was trying to make a change within the VA healthcare system, my boss got frustrated one day, and she said, "Kyle, it's going to take an act of Congress to fix the VA." So I became hell-bent on getting an act of Congress, but one U.S. senator blocks the bill that we have been working on, with then an estimated 22 veteran suicides a day. That's what happens when politicians, play partisan politics. And so know that in my logo for our campaign, there are 20 stars, that those are patients, veterans, soldiers, and heroes to me, and I will defend our veterans and keep that spirit of service. Please engage on this journey with our campaign. It's Dr. Kyle for Congress, and it'd be my honor to represent the 7th Congressional District.
Dr. Raza.
First, I want to thank you for the opportunity to serve this district the past 3.5 years. It is an incredible privilege to represent each and every one of you on the House floor in the committees that I'm assigned to on a daily basis. We have some major challenges ahead of us post-Hurricane Florence, and we're going to be working side by side with every community in this district to make sure that we have the long-term recovery that we need and deserve. We're going to have another supplemental appropriations package here in a couple weeks, or a couple months rather, probably late December before we come home. And we're working on that right now to make sure that we're identifying the specific needs of the district as a whole. We passed a $1.14 billion package as a first down payment a couple weeks ago. And I can assure you that if I have the honor and privilege to continue to represent you in the United States Congress, we're going to see this all the way through, and I'm going to continue to work for our farm families, our veterans, our rural towns and communities, and our coastal communities as well. Thank you, and God bless you.
All right. Let's thank our candidates. We're good to go. We're finished. Yep, all of our questions. All right, so thank you very much. Next, we will have the North Carolina Senate and House campaign. We will have Senate District 13, House District 46, and House District 16. So in the interest of time, what we'll do is we'll have all 6 candidates come up. You'll be in alphabetical order. So that will be Senator Britt would be first, followed by John Campbell, then Representative Brenda Jones, Barbara Yates Lockamy, and then John Johnson, and then Carson Smith. I can do that again if we need to. All right, yes, you can have a seat. Thank you. All right, so everybody's going to have a 1-minute opening statement, and then we'll go directly into questions. So Senator Britt, Senate District 13 is Columbus and Robeson counties, correct? And so if you'll do your opening statement, please.
I am State Senator Danny Britt. I was elected back in November 2016 to represent the folks of the 13th District. I'd like to tell you it's been an honor and a privilege to represent the folks here in Columbus County as well as Robeson County. Of course, I was born in Robinson, but I grew up over in Bladen County, right next door. I've had a lot of close friends and family that lived in Columbus County and have a lot of ties in Columbus County. I've enjoyed working in Raleigh. I've enjoyed serving the people. I grew up working in the tobacco field in Bladen County, much like many of the folks here in Columbus County, enlisted in the Army National Guard a day after my 17th birthday. Still been serving in the Army National Guard over 20 years now. I've been in actually 22 years, served in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Kuwait. During that time, I've also served as a prosecutor in Robinson County. I'm married to a career educator. We have 2 children who are 6 and 8, Carter and Ansley.
Thank you. All right, Brendan, if you'll go with your 1 minute, they'll come right down the line.
Good evening. Brendan Jones. I have the honor of serving you in the House District 46. I want to take one moment to ask you to join me to keep each of our hurricane victims in your prayers. And if you have suffered, you have been in mine. I've had the opportunity through 2 storms to go out and help folks. And that's why I've run for office, to continue to help. The devastation has been great, it's been wide, and it's going to be long. And we've put packages together up in Raleigh to help bring immediate needs to our community, but we'll talk about that a little later. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Brendan Jones, small business owner here in Columbus County, father of 2 beautiful girls, and married to my grade school sweetheart. The Lord knew I wasn't real smart, so he put a girl 2 miles down from me, so I was very fortunate. But I want to continue serving you. I look forward to our forum tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Barbara?
Good evening. I thank the Chamber for allowing us to be here today. Everybody know Barbara. I know you do. I've been here for a long time. Instead of doing all those accolades and accomplishments that I've made, because most of you know those, but I'm here for working hard, for the hard work that others have done, and to help them along the way. You know, I know all of you would like to see a better Columbus County. I'm here to make that difference, to offer you a better Columbus County. And I ask that you, and on November the 6th, or early voting, that you vote for Barbara Yates Lockamy, NC House. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm John Johnson. I'm the Democratic candidate for NC 16, which is the new district for Columbus County. And people often ask me, John, why do you run? And I'll give you an example. Since I've been coming to Columbus County, I've been visiting here and seen most of the county commissioners' meetings. And I can tell you, you've got a great set of commissioners here in Columbus County. But one of these meetings, at the end of the meeting, I was talking to Mr. Amar, and a couple came up and talked to us. And they said that they had a problem with their drinking water. Their drinking water had a color, it had a taste, it had a smell, and they were really concerned about the health of drinking it, of cooking with it, and of bathing with it. So what it was, essentially, is a third world problem here in the United States of America, in the richest country in the world, and the richest country in the history of the world. And right then and there, I made up my mind that if I win this election, if I only accomplish one thing, I'm going to get these ladies some drinking water. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to be here also. It's great that it is a fairly good turnout. It's good to see a few more than we're here in the fall, in the spring. Just want to real quickly let you know who I am. My name is Carson Smith. I'm running for House 16, which again is all of Pender County and basically Whiteville East when it comes to Columbus County. I've lived in Pender County most of my life. I have been the sheriff in Pender County since 2002. So and I'll tell you this now, I probably won't take 2 minutes to answer these questions because sometimes sheriffs can sort of get right down to the point and sort of let you know where we stand to start with. You'll never doubt where I stand. We might disagree on a few things, but you'll never doubt that. I'm here tonight with my wife, Jennifer. We've got 3 grown-up kids, a 28-year-old son, a 22-year-old daughter, and a 21-year-old stepson of mine. It's an honor to have served as sheriff in this area, this part of the state, which I love so much. And I want the opportunity to be able to serve you even more in the North Carolina House. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll get right into questions. So since Mr. Campbell is not here, Senator Brett, we were going to let you guys do just the Senate, but we're just going to throw you into the mix. So everybody, yeah, yeah. So, yeah. Okay. So, so anyway, what we'll do is we'll just throw you into the mix. The Senate and the House, we're going to get the same questions anyway, so this really won't change things a lot. But Danny, we will start with you anyway. First question, what do you see as the biggest impediments to economic growth in Columbus County, and how would you fix these? And you'll have 2 minutes to do these.
Okay, well, one of the biggest impediments that we have is the education system that we have in Columbus County now. We've got to make some improvements to the education system here in Columbus County. There are several different steps that we need to make. We've funded with the General Assembly an additional $700 million towards education since 2012. We've added funding to textbook funding. We've added funding to teacher pay. We've done a lot to try to bring that up. But a lot of those failures that are happening locally, and we've got to do something about that. One of those is something difficult to accomplish, and that is getting the per pupil funding up. The per pupil funding in Columbus County compared to Orange County. Columbus County funds per pupil around $980, whereas Orange County funds over $5,000 per pupil. Being able to increase those per pupil dollars is one thing that we worked on with the tax loss distribution bill. What that bill would do is it would have added about $3.5 million to the Columbus County budget and could have added supplements to teacher pay to be able to get the per pupil funding back up in Columbus County. That is something that passed the Senate and got to the House, and there was someone in Wake County who did not like the bill because he didn't like what it did to Wake County. And oftentimes that is one of the battles that we fight in Raleigh. It's not so much Republican-Democrat as it is the issue of urban versus rural. And those folks in those urban areas, they don't need that per pupil funding as badly as we do. They don't need those sales tax dollars as badly as we do. But that was one thing that we did. The other thing that we did is Brandon Jones and myself, he on the House side, me on the Senate side, sponsored a JDIG bill, Joint Developmental Incentive Grants. And what these grants do, and what this bill would do, would say that 50% of all Tier 1 counties, 50% of all JDIG grants would be awarded to Tier 1 counties before any Tier 2, Tier 3, or Tier 4 county received any of those monies for the incentive grants. Currently, between 2014 and 2016, $5 million went to Tier 1 counties, while $60 million went to Tier 3 and Tier 4 counties. So that were things that I did work on and things that I did accomplish, and those are things I'll continue to work on if elected again.
Thank you. Representative Jones, you want to take a crack at that? You need it repeated, or are you good?
Ditto. You hate going behind the senator, and the senator hate going behind me because he is correct. Those are things that we did. One other thing, when I get a lot of phone calls when people's asking about Columbus County moving down, the two questions they do ask are about your school systems and about your crime. So the second element of that is we have to get a handle on our crime. We'll hear from the sheriff and the sheriff candidate more on that, but what we did is we know opioids are a big factor, especially down here. So what we had also done was the STOP Act. We're making physicians responsible for the opioid crisis. We've got honorable physicians and we got bad physicians. We got good lawyers, we got bad lawyers. So that's one of the things we're doing also. But also another thing we're doing, we're making sure, along with Danny and the Senate side, we also make sure that the lottery will actually be used for education. So those monies are going to be made available to help do the things you heard Danny talk about. So that's going to be a big thing for us. And also I wrote a bill called HB 600 to help fund schools quicker, faster. It's a lease-to-own type thing. I don't know if we're taking advantage of it, but we should be. It will give us the ability to get our schools up and running faster. But Danny's correct. With the JDIG, we're getting the monies in quicker, and that's what we've got to do. We've got to get our school systems up. And that's things we have worked on.
Thank you.
Would you restate the question?
Sure. What do you see as the biggest impediments to economic growth in Columbus County, and how would you fix these?
Well, I agree with Mr. Britt and Mr. Jones about the schools, because I work with schools and I know that the funding is needed in the school. But I think one of our biggest problems is our health care. Our health care, now we're still at the bottom as the unhealthiest county in the state. And I think that we need to look at the health care and how Medicaid expansion would help us. Our children are suffering. Our people in general are suffering. People cannot help their children if they're suffering. So we need to look at how we can better provide costly health care. Our government is sitting on $2.1 or $2 billion of rainy day fund. If we got money that is there for rainy day, then it's time for us to use some of that money to help rural counties like Columbus County. And health care is one of those things that you can't miss. People are dying. Children are suffering because we cannot afford to give them what they need.
As an MBA, one of the things that they tell you in B school is what are the 5 factors that a business looks for when they're looking for a site. And that applies here just as it does anywhere else. And those 5 factors are operating cost, available workforce, lifestyle, incentives, and access. Well, those first 3, I think that we're doing pretty well in Columbus County. But in terms of incentives and access, then we have a little ways to go, but particularly among incentives. I believe that it's time that we rebalance the incentives so that less of the incentives are going to the urban areas of the state where they don't need it as much as we need it here. I believe that we should adopt a program whereby for every $1 that's spent on incentives in the richer metropolitan parts of the state, the next dollar comes to Columbus County or a similar county that needs it more.
When it comes to economic development, first let me say I think the state the past couple of years has done a tremendous job of doing what they can in Raleigh to make this state much more appealing to both businesses who might want to come here and folks who might want to start businesses. But the 2 things that hit my mind when you asked the question were infrastructure and education. We've seen this whole area get cut off in a hurricane. We've seen it more than once, but we've seen it just last month we saw that. It's hard to talk businesses to come into places where they say, well, my goodness, are folks going to live down there? The houses are going to flood. I could build a building that could potentially flood. I don't know if that's the best place. I think infrastructure we're going to have to look at. I think we're going to have to be sure that we harden and elevate some of our road systems and bridges so we don't have that problem anymore. We can't, every road that flooded, we can't elevate it, but we've got to be sure we don't get cut off from the rest of the world in a hurricane. In education, too. I think businesses definitely look for education. They want a workforce that they can depend on, that's an educated workforce. So obviously a big thing that I've made in my platform, and even some of the others have, is one of the primary things the state does, state government, is education. So I think we've got to be sure we do continue to commit funds to the teachers, to the employees, and to the schools. And just sort of an offshoot of education and a workforce, rural internet, wired internet. You know, a long time ago, a lot of people didn't have electricity in the house, didn't have a telephone. Well, it had to happen, and it was made to happen. We've got to be sure that everybody has access to wired internet.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Next question. And some of you have touched on this already, but you can add to it and maybe be more specific. And we'll start with Representative Jones. As a legislator, how would you propose to bridge the massive divide between the 2 North Carolinas, the wealthy urban and suburban areas versus the rural areas, particularly those in eastern North Carolina?
Well, thank you for the question, Les. That's something we've been working very hard on. And it first starts with having a strong legislator from a rural area, because you will be overrun in Raleigh by Democrats and Republicans. You have to take into account where you're from and where you're going. Southeastern North Carolina is finally on the mark. For the first time in many decades, we've been able to bring monies down here. So we're getting on the map to close that divide. We're now seeing some industry look at us. With the JDIG grant, we're bringing water and sewer to one of the biggest, will potentially be one of the biggest industrial parks in North Carolina that sits on the Columbus and Brunswick line. That will be hundreds and hundreds of jobs. We've spoken a moment ago about the health care. Well, health care is a big factor. Fortunately, we are not at the bottom anymore. We have moved up, so we're fortunate not to be there. So health care is important. Expanding Medicaid would probably not be the answer. You heard the congressman speak about competition. Competition is what drives prices down. Stepping out there to a $500 million price tag to expand is not going to help the small folks like us. Having competition come in will drive the prices down and make it more competitive and more appealing for folks to look at a Columbus or a Robinson County. So that's things we're working very hard in the General Assembly and putting monies allocated for that, just like this past week. We heard about the rainy day fund. Thank goodness we were able to pay back the $2 billion deficit that the previous administration got us in. And we put $2 billion in the bank. Well, we don't have that $2 billion anymore because we spent $800 million this week alone to help with disaster relief. So that's the kind of things we will do to divide that.
All right, I'll mix this up as best I can to keep things kind of off balance here. John, why don't you take this one next?
John.
Yep. And the question is about how would you bridge the gap between the two North Carolinas, the urban and rural areas?
If any of you have been at an event where I've spoken, you've probably heard my analogy of the red line drawn north and south along Highway 95. And this is something that I believe and something that we see, because if you were to look at the left of that line, to the western part of that line leading to the Piedmont, you'll find areas where you have lots of large businesses that have moved. Just in the last few years, you've had Metropolitan Life, Credit Suisse, and we're about to have perhaps Apple coming, to North Carolina. That's yet to be seen, but we think it's going to happen. And but yet to the eastern part of that line, in Pender County and Columbus County and the rural east, we're not seeing as much of that. And so going back to my last answer, I do believe that we need to readdress what we are doing with our state business initiative program. I do believe that we should match dollar for dollar. Every dollar that's spent in the areas that are already prosperous, the next dollar should be spent in areas that are more needful. I believe that's the first step. And we need to address access. It would have been good if many years ago if we had developed a deep water port, because if we had, we would have gotten one of those car dealers that have gone to, or car manufacturers that have gone to other states nearby. We've lost Mercedes twice, once to South Carolina and then once to Alabama. And so if we had used our incentive programs more wisely, we would have a film industry in North Carolina, which we have run off. So there's a lot of work to be done. If I'm given the opportunity, I'm hoping to readdress that and bring attention to the areas such as Columbus County that needs it the most.
Thank you. Carson, we'll have you go next, followed by Barbara, and then Danny, you'll be last. Just be order.
This is going to be real short because it really piggybacks off my last answer. Government doesn't need to pay all the health care for people. Government doesn't need to buy them food and to have everybody on welfare. What we need to do is let folks have an opportunity to do that themselves. So the best way to get the have-nots to become the haves is to create opportunities where they can create businesses, where they can work in businesses. Tying back into my last answers, get the Commerce Department, get them going, get them on steroids over there, get these grants going as the representatives were talking about, keep them flowing, go sell North Carolina. The infrastructure, they're not going to come here if they don't have the infrastructure. And out here, especially between 95 and the coast, there's some work that has to be done in Columbus County. I believe that too. And one more time, I'm sorry to repeat myself, but an educated workforce. I think all these things are critical. Once we do this, then folks can make it on their own, and that's what this country is about.
The people of Columbus County work hard, and they listen mostly to their people in leadership. So what we need to do is to provide for them the opportunities for jobs, for health, for them getting ahead. We want Columbus County to not be one of the ones on the bottom all the time. We want Columbus County to rise to the top. And in order for us to do that, is that we have to provide those incentives and those things for our people in our area. We have to provide opportunities that model what we do here in Columbus County. It's unfortunate that the storms came. It's really unfortunate that people have lost a lot of homes and probably will never go back there. But what we have to do right now for our people in Columbus County is to look at where we are and take them to higher grounds. We have to take those people because they're going to leave us. They're going to leave Columbus County. They're going to go to where they can find those opportunities that we don't provide. And yes, we have had some monies to come into the county, but what did we do with those monies that came into the county? Did we help those people who are desperately in need?
I'm going to piggyback on my last answer a little bit. Once again, you know, to create that, or to close that gap, increasing the money coming in for those JDIG grants. I mean, if the first 50% of all those dollars came to Tier 1 counties before anything was paid out to a Tier 2, Tier 3, Tier 4 county, that would be exponential for places like Columbus County and Robinson County. That would mean the incentives that we need to create the opportunity for people to get the jobs down here. But to be able to keep those incentive grants up and to be able to keep that money there and to be able to bring back the money that's been brought back to the district, that's been brought back over the last 2 years. There's been over $20 million brought back to Columbus County in the last 2 years. Over $40 million brought back to Robinson County. A lot of that money went to infrastructure. A lot of that money went to downtown revitalization. All of those projects are things that help rural North Carolina and help Columbus County grow. Every one of those downtown revitalization projects help attract business to Columbus County. Had we spent an additional $500 million a year on Medicaid expansion for folks that are able-bodied, working-age people, we would not have that money available. We would not have the rainy day money available for what rainy day we just had 3 weeks back with Hurricane Florence. So we've got to continue to be conservative with our money. We've got to continue to maintain our budget surplus while increasing state employees' pay as we did, while increasing the starting teacher pay as we did. We created a state minimum wage that for a lot of people in Robinson and Columbus County is a big, big deal. We have a lot of correctional employees and other state employees that are making significantly more money now because of raising that state employee floor from $24,000 to $31,000. And that's how we help bridge the gap.
All right, thank you. Third question, and we'll go in this order. We'll have Carson, then Danny, then Barbara, John, and then Brendan. So Carson, you'll be up first. What's your take on the state of public education in North Carolina, and specifically, what would you do to make it better?
I've hit on that a little bit too, but I'll expand a little bit. I'm a product of public schools. I imagine most of us in this room probably are. My mother taught school for 30 years, so I always get an earful from her when I hear about teachers or whatever. You know what? The past couple of years, I think the state's gone in the right direction. I think that they've turned it around a little bit in the legislature, and I know that we've got to keep that going. We want to, just as we're trying to get business in here, we want to get the best teachers that we can in here. We want to keep those teachers. We want to keep even other school employees that we talk about too. I think one point that was made is a great point. The locals are going to need to do your part in that, but at the state level, and I made this point again already tonight, one of the primary things a state does is education, and we have to do it, and we have to do it right. And if that costs money, it's going to cost money. You know what? There's probably places we're spending money we don't need to be spending it. And I think to take it from there and keep it in the education system as long as we're getting a bang for a buck, as long as we're not wasting the money in the education system, then it's going to require more funding. I think, I hate to see the federal government come down and tell us, I thought that was my timer. I don't like it when the federal government come down and tell us how we got to educate our people. So hopefully maybe they can take care of that in Washington. Let the states take care of education. You know what? It'll probably be cheaper if we do that. So in Washington, they can help us make our buck go a lot further down here. I know I can't control that, but a couple in here are listening to me, hopefully. But yeah, if it costs money, it costs money. We've got to, it's what we have to do for our kids. We have to give them a chance to succeed in life.
So Danny, you're next. Your state, your take on the state of public education, and what would you do to make it better?
Over the last about 6 years, like I said, we've increased overall education funding close to $2 billion additional to education. I can't remember the exact figure, but I know it is pretty close to over half of our overall budget for the state already. Since 2012, we've increased education funding $700 million. So we've done a lot to bring some of the teachers up at the bottom, but what we haven't done is enough for those veteran teachers that are at the 15-year mark like my wife, or the 25-year mark like my sister. I mean, those are the folks that we need to try to increase funding for education for. We need to try to do more to put money towards their salary to get them in a position where it's more competitive, where people don't want to leave the state of North Carolina, so we can keep the passionate teachers who want to teach because they're passionate about education and passionate about educating our children, so they don't leave and go somewhere else. We want to do what we can to maintain those numbers. The problem is, whenever we came in 2010, when the majority party, GOP, came in 2010, teacher pay was so low across the state. Whenever I was working as an assistant district attorney and my wife was teaching the 4th grade, I got furloughed, she got a pay freeze. That was back in 2009. That was right before the lottery money got raided, okay? Right now, we're starting to put more and more of those lottery dollars back in education. We've increased the funding into capital spending. We've passed a bill that no longer allows any of those education lottery funds to be spent elsewhere other than to education and for construction. If we can spend more of those dollars that are being spent now to keep up our older schools into building newer schools, then that money can be used to supplement some of our teachers' pay, to be able to supplement some of the technology that we need in the classroom.
Barbara, you're next.
Being on the school board and seeing what comes in as funding for our school, especially in Columbus County, we know we need more money. We know we need more funding for our schools. Teachers' pay, yes. They've been getting some raises, but it isn't enough. No, it isn't. We are 37th, is that in the state, in the nation? Yeah, no, that's not where we want to be. We want to be at the average. We want to get the national average. And those teachers that are middle of their career, they haven't seen anything. Most of them are having to work extra jobs in order to make ends meet. And is that fair? That's not fair to the people that are educating our children. They're putting their lives on the line for us. And we need to pay them for what they do. Our schools need more funding to gather in those teachers, those new teachers. And talking about teachers would stay in North Carolina if they were paid. If they were paid. North Carolina loses many teachers because of our pay scale. And therefore, the talent that we have is going elsewhere. So our kids are not getting the top teachers. They're getting what we have. And we want a little more. We want our children to be able to get all that they need
John, followed by Brendan.
Barbara Yates Lockamy is absolutely correct. Not too long ago, I attended a breakfast meeting at a Communities and Schools breakfast. I sat at a round table with 4 teachers. As I normally do, I introduced myself and I asked what they did, asked their life story, and I just shut up and listened. 4 teachers. I asked them, and they said every single one of them had a second job. Every one of them, 100%. They said that every single one of them paid out-of-pocket expenses that were not reimbursed, 100%. But the real shocker is I asked them, how many of you would recommend to your own children that they become teachers? The shocker? 0. Not a single one would recommend to their children that they follow in their footsteps to become teachers. That's a shame. And that's something that we can change in the state legislature if we intend to do so. It is a political decision. I support Governor Cooper's plan, a revenue-neutral plan to increase teachers' wages to the national average within 2 years. It's something we should do. It's the right thing for Columbus County. It's the right thing for Columbus County because here we have trouble attracting the quality of teachers that would work in Wake County, Guilford County, Orange County, Durham County, Mecklenburg County, or even New Hanover County. It's something that we can change, and it's something that our children and our future deserves.
It's not exactly right. They're not factoring in the $16,000 benefit package, which makes North Carolina one of the top benefit givers in the nation. Also, I do believe that teachers are the bedrock of our community. They're the second parents to most of our children. I know each one of you remember today a teacher that you had. So, we're doing the right things. We've added another $700 million into the budget. Sometimes money doesn't fix problems. Sometimes we can't depend on the state to make those decisions for us. Sometimes it's on the local level. The monies are getting sent down. Sometimes they're not appropriated correctly. So I do believe that we will continue to fight because our original problem was hiring. So now we have one of the best hiring packages in the nation. It wasn't retention, it was hiring. You're hearing about teachers leave for South Carolina. That's only because we border one of the highest grossing counties in South Carolina already. But in fact, we have more teachers coming into North Carolina than we do leaving because of our benefit package. So that's a little fact check there. But I do agree with each one. I don't think anybody here denies that we need to do more for our children. I don't know that we can do enough. And we need to retain our teachers. We need to pay them well, pay them fairly. And again, I still believe that new schools, proper schools, will enhance our education. It will give everybody a better chance to have a better education. And they will want to move to small areas like ours if we can offer first-class schools.
All right, so we'll have a 1-minute closing statement. Carson, we'll start with you and just go right on down the road.
Thank you again. Thank you again for this night. Let me just say, I do believe, and I've heard it tonight, we do live in the greatest country on the face of this planet that's ever been. I believe that with all my heart. And this is one great state, and I love this state. A long time ago, back before I was born, they put this country together. And they said, you know, it's going to be a representative form of government. I don't think back then they said, we're going to send you up there for the next 30 years, 40 years, go up there and just vote, you know, come back down every now and then and tell you. I think it's more like, hey, it's your turn to go serve. That's the way I see it. I don't see myself doing this for 20 or 30 years. But you know what? I see myself as serving now. I've lived down here all my life, practically. I want to be your representative, and to do that, I need your vote. I want you to serve through me in Raleigh. And thank you very much for your time tonight.
Yeah, just go right on down the line.
I'm John Johnson. I'm the Democratic candidate for NC 16. If any of you have seen my ads or on billboards, you've seen a very prominent message, and that message is, it's about people, not politics. It's about people. It's about you and the folks at home that are watching this on the video stream. We've had enough of partisan bickering and partisan divide that's prevented a General Assembly from performing the valuable work that they are entrusted to do. It's time that we elected people who are committed to working together, collaborating, working as a team, being team players, giving a little, taking a little, but doing what's right for all the people of North Carolina.
Thank you again for allowing me to be here tonight. I say committed, trusted, servant leader. That's what I've been all my life. And I will continue to be a committed person. I will continue to be trusted. I will continue to be a servant for the people of Columbus County, as well as a leader for Columbus County. Grew up in Columbus County, love Columbus County, and love the people of Columbus County. I would ask again for your support, beginning on October the 17th with early voting and ending November the 6th with the general election. Thank you again.
Les, thank you for moderating. Chamber, Southeastern, thank you very much for having us. Folks, thank you for coming out, showing interest in the political process. Folks, we live in the greatest state in the nation, but we live in the greatest part of that state. I love Southeastern North Carolina. That's why I came back to make a home for my family. We've made great strides in 2 years. For the first time, the General Assembly knows where Southeastern North Carolina's at. You heard the Senator mention we brought $20 million down in just under 2 years, $40 million to Robeson County. The reason we were able to do a lot of that is because relationships. Relationships go a long way, you know that. Serving as the majority freshman whip had put me at the table with leadership to be able to voice our opinions and make sure that we have a seat at the table. I love serving you. I look forward to serving you. I ask you tonight for your vote, but mostly I ask for your prayers for all of us. We're putting ourselves on the line to serve you. Each one has a heart, but I'm asking you tonight for your vote. Thank you.
Again, I'm State Senator Danny Britt. I was born and raised in Southeast North Carolina. It has been an absolute honor and privilege to serve you in Raleigh. I'm looking very much forward to continuing to serve you in Raleigh as the husband of an educator, as a veteran, as someone who has served in the Army for over 20 years, and as a former prosecutor. I've got a diverse background that gives me the ability to understand a lot of things that we have going on in this county and in Robeson County. It also has opened my eyes to many things that we need to have fixed, and problems that we have and things that we can make better. But one thing that I can tell you is we do have some of the best people here in Columbus and in Robeson County, and this is your seat. Whenever I'm in Raleigh, I'm serving you. I am serving the community, and whenever I vote and whenever I make decisions in Raleigh, it is for Columbus County and for Robeson County, and that is what I will continue to do if reelected in November. Thank you.
All right, let's give all these candidates a hand. Jenny, we ended up having a pretty good crowd tonight. Good form. Are there candidates here from the commissioner's race? Jenny, do we have any commissioner's candidates here? Okay. All right, so that would be Jerome McMillan and Randy Williams from District 1, which is Amon's district, stretches from Fair Bluff up through Chadbourne and Mount Olive. So with that, we're going to go straight to the sheriff's race with Jody Green and Lewis Hatcher. And you each have 1 minute for a personal statement. Jody, starting with you. So Jody, if you'll take a minute, just tell us about yourself and a personal statement. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're doing good.
Folks, I'm Jody Green, born and raised in Sarah Border, proud to bring from Columbus County. Me and my beautiful wife reside in Sarah Border. My career in law enforcement started here 28 years ago. Started at Chadron, progressed to Columbus County Sheriff's Department, and now currently with the Highway Patrol. I look forward to serving the county as sheriff. I need your vote. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, if anybody's here from SCC, I know they're trying to stream this on the SCC network. Maybe they can come down and maybe the batteries are
Good
down.
evening.
Okay, there we go. We got one.
Got it. I'm Sheriff Lewis Hatcher, serving as Sheriff of Columbus County and Democratic candidate for re-election to the office of Sheriff. I grew up in Bladen County. I graduated from Clarkton High School, and upon graduating in May, I entered the military in July that same year. Served 3 years in the military. After returning, I joined the Clarkton Police Department, and I served there 2 years. I left the sheriff's office, the police department, and joined the sheriff's office, and served there from 79 to 83. I went to the Highway Patrol and retired from the Highway Patrol in 2006. In January of 2014, I was appointed as Sheriff of Columbus County and was elected of Sheriff of Columbus County in 2014. I'm humbled to serve as your sheriff. I serve proudly. I serve with honesty and dignity.
Lewis, we're going to give you the first question while you're up. So you guys probably saw this coming, right? We're going to talk about opioids. And the question is, what is your plan to curb the curse of opioid addictions in the county? And we talked about this in April. And talk about that, but has anything changed in the past 6 months or so?
Yes. Trillium Healthcare Service is a provider that has come to Columbus County. And I've sat down to the table with the representatives from Trillium. And we talked about getting a facility here, a place that people with opiate problems can go to get treatment. Because 6 months ago, there was no place. No place for anybody to walk up and ask me, where can I go to get some help? So I'm working with Trillium Healthcare Service to help provide a place for an individual that has an opiate problem. I have 2 children. My children are grown, but I have grandchildren. And the opiate problem means a lot to me. Ladies and gentlemen, I will tell you tonight, I don't care how much money you got, what color you are, or where you're from. No family is exempt when it comes to opiates. And you will be surprised at the young people that get hooked on opiates simply by experimenting. They want to experiment, and that experimentation can lead to addiction. I've got people down there incarcerated that do not need to be incarcerated in that facility. They need to be in a treatment facility. So I'm working diligently with the healthcare providers, the preachers, the health department, and all of these other folks that we're networking with to help combat this opiate problem.
Jody, so on the opiate problem, what is your plan, and have you seen anything change since you were here last?
I haven't seen a big change, but I did come to one Trillium meeting. To me, the opioid epidemic's 2 parts. You got your drug dealers that you can arrest, that do need charging. Then you got good people that make bad decisions. That's the people we have to reach out to. The state action plan is a good building block, but we got to go outside of that. We've got to use other agencies. Mental health, to me, is where the biggest part of it is. Trillium is an asset for the county in that aspect. But people have got to want help. That's one of the main things. And when people come to you for help, we got to offer the help.
everybody don't need arresting, just as the sheriff said. You can't arrest your way out of that portion of it. We just got to be proactive and reach out to the children, educate them, start it early in schools. That's my plan.
So Jody, you have next question. What are the biggest challenges in law enforcement in Columbus County, and how would you fix these?
One of the biggest challenges is retention based off pay. You got to build a foundation. If you don't have a solid foundation, nothing's going to work. It's going to fall. Training is part of that foundation. If you build a professional organization where people want to come and work, have the proper pay, everything we've talked about here tonight is revolved around money. No different county or statewide. But we've got to do something for our people. Our deputies have got to have a pay raise. From there, then we can build something solid.
Okay, Lewis?
Retention is a big part of it. I'm proud of the relationship that I have with our Board of Commissioners, because I've been able to get these officers' salaries up from $29,000 and $27,000 to $33,000 and $34,000. But ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you this. You have to have some incentive to draw people. And I've been to the Board of Commissioners and we've talked about that. Training, yes, that's an asset. And I do my best to see that my folks are trained sufficiently. But I will tell you this too. Retention also starts at the top. I'm the sheriff. I set the example, and I lead by the example. And I will tell you this, if one of my folks do a good job, I let them know they do a good job. I let them know how much I appreciate them and how much I appreciate what they do. That is a big part of retention, knowing that someone that you work for cares about what you do. Those are the folks that step out and go the extra mile that I don't have the checkbook to pay them for. I would if I had it, but I don't. But I appreciate what they do, and I let them know daily how much I appreciate what they do. That's part of retention also.
Thank you. So Lewis, you've got the next question, and our last question. It's a good one. What changes would you make to law enforcement training, if any? Are there any novel approaches that you've seen that you think would work well here?
We are very well trained. Of course, there's always the extra training that I would like to be able to send my detectives to, my investigators to. I can't send them all at one time. But that's why I've reached out and obtained $84,000 in grants to be able to send these officers to school to get them trained in forensics, homicide investigation, and that type thing. I will tell you this, training is very, very important. It is. But experience is a great, great teacher. Training, sure, we need training. I employ training, but experience. The veteran officers that you have, those people that already have the experience, that have been able to say, I've been there and done that, that means a lot. But sure, training is part of retention also. So I applaud each and every one that works for me, works with me. And sure, I will afford them the training as I see it possible. I can't send my officers to training like Cumberland County does because I don't have the budget. I can't send them to training like Mecklenburg County does because I don't have the budget. But what I can do is send them when it's available, and I can send them when I can spare these one or two to go at a time. Thank you.
Jody, you good with that question? Okay.
Yes, I think there's a lot of things we could change in training. One thing, instructors inside the department, training is free, which I'm a state instructor. Also, instant command training, just like for the hurricane. That's an ever-evolving thing. That's a living document. It continually changes on what has to be done with that.
being involved in training at the community college level so we can get the appropriate candidates that we need to help with retention. If we stand there and watch and help train them and nurture them and weed out the ones that we don't need. Training is an ever-evolving thing. When law enforcement is sued, it's sued in two categories: lack of training for supervision and a lack of training for its people. That's something that we have to do. I know budgets are crunched, even the highway patrol's budget and stuff, but we have to do this. This is something that we have to spend money to do to make our county a better place.
So you each have a 1-minute closing statement. Jody, if you'll get us started.
In closing, I'd like to thank all y'all for putting this on, taking the time to come out and listen to us. I'm going to challenge all of you. I want y'all to look around. I want y'all to make a decision. If you like the way the county's going, if you think we can make some changes, I challenge all of you to look at it and really do some soul searching. Not a lot's changed over the past 20 years. We've got to do something to save this county. It's part of our job at the sheriff's office as well to be diplomat. We have to help draw business here. We have to help lower the crime rate. There's a lot that we have to do so everybody can be on one lead playing field. We have to have collaboration with the state and the federal government. Thank you for your time.
Louis?
Ladies and gentlemen, I can tell you that I worked at the sheriff's office. I can tell you now that I manage the sheriff's office. I know how to manage a budget. I know how to do what I need to do with what I have to do it with. So I don't work at the sheriff's office. I manage the sheriff's office. I've had that 7 years to serve as a chief deputy to learn how to manage the sheriff's office, to learn how to take a little bit from here and put a little bit from there to make it work. So I have served diligently for the past 5 years as a sheriff. I will ask you first for your prayers. I ask you second for your vote. Thank you so much.
All right, let's thank these candidates. All right, our final two races are for school board, one in the county and in the city. So the first one will be County School Board District 2, Shane Enzer, Rashad Roberts, and Ronnie Strickland. So Shane, you'll be first, followed by Rashad, and then Ronnie. So Shane, you'll be on that end, then Rashad, and then Ronnie. Rashad, you'll get between these two fellas here. There we go, good. All right, so everybody has a 1-minute statement, and we'll start with you, Shane.
I want to thank you for the opportunity also for the group to put this together tonight, and opportunity to be able to come and speak and voice how I speak and what I stand for in Columbus County, and the reason I've chosen to seek the seat on the District 2 of the Columbus County Board of Education. Again, I'm Shane Enzer, born and raised here in Chadron, most of it because I have been in healthcare for 25 years, served all around the 5 counties, many homes, been affiliated with many families throughout Columbus County over these years. Thank you.
Okay, Rashad.
Good afternoon. My name is Rashad Roberts. I am a candidate for Columbus County Schools Board of Education District 2. I am a native of Chadron. I have 2 kids in Columbus County school systems currently, one here at Columbus Career and College Academy and one at Evergreen Elementary. I love doing what I'm trying to do now, which is serve. I'm a servant leader in my church, and I love serving in the community. I have 12 years experience Columbus in Chadron Town Council, and I just would like to serve our children. There are a lot of important things that are on the table now, and I have kids that are in the school system. Some of us have children that are in the school system, so I have a vested interest. So starting tomorrow in early voting period, as well as November the 6th. I ask for your support by casting your vote for me as your candidate. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for putting this on. My name is Ronnie Strickland. I am running for Columbus County Schools Board of Education. I've had a lot of folks ask me why. I graduated from West Columbus High School. My wife graduated from West Columbus High School. My oldest son graduated from West Columbus High School. I've got a younger son right now that's a sophomore at West Columbus High School. So you notice the theme there. Yeah, not only did I graduate, but my mother and father graduated from West Columbus High School as well. So that's a pretty long time period there that West Columbus High School has been around. There's a lot of challenges facing education in this county and state. I look forward to meeting those challenges head on, and I would appreciate your vote.
All right, first question, Ronnie, you'll have the first question, followed by Rashad and then Shane. So Ronnie, your question, all of your question is, what is your opinion of the state of education in Columbus County, and what would you do to change anything about it?
The state of education in Columbus County is behind. There's a lot of reasons that it's behind. Number one is the facilities that Columbus County schools have. My youngest son is an insulin-dependent diabetic. He had a monitor that would alert to my phone that his blood sugar was high or his blood sugar was low. That worked great when he was anywhere but at school. Do you know why it wouldn't work at school? Because it couldn't connect and send a message out to my phone. There's been a lot going on here over the past 6, 7, 8 months to a year regarding what's going on in the education system. A lot of stuff regarding consolidating schools. Folks, I graduated from Campbell University. I was the third graduating class from the School of Pharmacy there. We sat in a lecture hall like this. It had wooden seats, didn't even have an armrest that you could pick up to take notes on. About 15 years ago, they built a new School of Pharmacy. You go there now, and you can sit down at a nice, comfortable chair like this. It's got a connection underneath it that you can connect an iPad to. You can download the teacher's notes, take notes on your iPad or your tablet. Our kids deserve that in Columbus County as well. We are far behind on technology. Technology we cannot get in schools that are almost 100 years old. I think I'm correct when I say this, but I think Evergreen School is the oldest operating school in the state of North Carolina. It was opened in 1924. Technology is where we need advancement.
I see the state of education in Columbus County is struggling and is suffering, just like other aspects in our county, job losses and things of that nature. Education is suffering as well. Without a lot of resources, we've learned how to rob Peter to pay Paul. We've learned how to make do with what we have. But in that process, our students and our teachers are suffering. They're struggling. Our current board is doing the best that they can with what they have. You heard a lot of people talking, and at one point in time, I thought they were running for school board. Education was the topic tonight. But you heard a lot of promises. You heard a lot of things that are happening or are planning to happen. I hope everyone holds true to that, because in order to make ourselves better in education, we do need those resources. I know that government can't be the big brother to take care of all of our problems, but they are the key to a lot of our problems. And so for me, one thing that I see is I've had kids who, my kids are in school and they come home and they're doing homework, but nobody has a book. And I consider myself fairly intelligent, but I need a book sometime to look at the problem. So why don't my kids have books? They did come home with a form the other day to sign off to say, you're getting a book, and she was so excited. That's sad. We all went to school where we had textbooks and we had the necessary tools and the resources. So the state of our educational system right now is we're doing the best that we can with what we have, but there's a lot of room for improvement. And so keep that in mind when you go to the polls, when you make your choices, not only for this seat, but all of the seats. Thank you.
Ask you to repeat the question.
Sure. What is the state of education in Columbus County, in your opinion, and what would you do to change it?
In my opinion, first of all, I think the board that's already present has done a great job on trying to spread money, but you can't spread money but so far when you don't have it. When you have a tough time getting the money, and then you have students that I talk to the parents, students themselves stating, we don't have the money for this, we don't have the money for that. Shane, we're having to do this. That's one of the reasons I chose to step out to run for the Board of Education, to make a difference. And I see that it can be if it's spoken out. Yes, we need more money, need better things, better schools, school upgrades. Yes, some is not, we don't want to see a lot of closings, but sometimes some things have to be done because of state regulations and for the health of our students and our teachers and our staff.
Thank you. All right, next question, we'll have Rashad, then Shane, then Ronnie. Next question. So Rashad, you're up. What do you see as the potential benefits or potential problems of the merger of the two school systems? And also, in addition to that, what do you think about the county schools consolidation plan?
First, the merger. Some of the benefits could be that we do form better academics, better academic schools, better athletic programs, being able to consolidate all of our funds into one pot. Negatives, there would only be one pot. We would only get monies from the state for one school system, whereas we get monies now that because we have two school systems, they have to appropriate monies for both of those. As far as the plan or the consolidation plan for that the county has implemented, first I would like to say closing schools or taking away schools out of any area can be emotional, it's sentimental. As you heard Mr. Strickland say, schools have been in these neighborhoods for centuries, or for decades, excuse me, for decades. So when you go to close it, it's like taking a piece out of your family or out of your home. But I do understand that decisions have to be made. We're moving forward. We're struggling financially, so decisions have to be made. As far as the consolidation plan, I would like to be able to sit down at the table with all of the information so that a logical choice can be made and make sure that we're looking at every possible solution before we just rush in haste to just start closing schools without looking at where we're going and where we're coming from to make sure that we don't go backwards when we think we're doing the best thing. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Shane, first about merger and then consolidation, or I'm sorry, Ronnie. Ronnie, you're next. So it would be, the question is, what do you see as the potential benefits or potential problems of merger of the two school systems, and what do you think about the schools consolidation plan? Yeah.
Okay. What are the advantages? One Columbus County school system. It's my understanding from information that I've gathered that not only will we get information on whether or not it's financially feasible and whether there will be cost savings if we combine Columbus County and Whiteville City schools, but also understand that there will be information presented on exactly how many schools, high schools, how many elementary or middle and elementary schools that are needed in Columbus County. As far as negatives, number one impact would be for job loss. I don't want anybody in this county, we struggle enough with employment in the county as it is. We don't need to create a situation where there's going to be a bunch of jobs lost. That's the last thing that I want to see. As far as the consolidation plan for the county schools, there's a lot of information that I don't have that I need to look at, but I do foresee that there is going to be further consolidation, and I support that. I think, as I touched earlier, the advantages of a newer school are advantages for the learning of our children. It gives them advantages that they do not currently have. It gives them advantages of a lot or better athletic programs. Right now, there are individual athletic programs at the 3 small schools in the western end of the county that they already have to combine. So there are advantages there. Thank you.
I'm going to ask you to repeat the question.
Sure. What do you see as the potential benefits or potential problems of the merger of the 2 school systems? And what do you think about the county schools consolidation plan?
First of all, on the positives, you have to look at what is the betterment of the students and their learning and their education as combining schools. What would it draw? How can the students benefit to be number 1? That is the main goal. Number 2, on the consolidation negative, you would look at job loss, as they have already brought up. I would have to agree. It can cause a lot of job losses. But our main concern is your students and their education. And it being number 1, everything being provided for them for what's best. As far as making the comment of coming to the merger of the Columbus County and City Schools, I would have to see the results of what the firm has been hired to do to see if it's beneficial for our students before I would consider for the merger. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, third and last question. Ronnie, we'll start with you, then Shane, and then Rashad. So Ronnie, Shane, and Rashad. Last question. How can we improve underperforming schools, many of which are located in the poorest areas of the county? And also, are there any curriculum changes you'd like to see?
Resources. Resources are the number 1 thing that'll be needed for improving the underperforming schools. There are many students that have been greatly affected by this storm that we've just gotten through. I had a conversation on Sunday morning with some principals, and many students are suffering emotional fatigue, for lack of a better way of putting it, due to what they are dealing with at home. Some are living in houses that have been damaged. Some are living in houses that really should be uninhabitable. Some are still living in shelters. We have to put the resources there to emotionally support these students. Counselors, both of the principals that I talked with on Sunday morning, they have part-time counselors. They're at one school part-time, one school part-time, and one school part-time. So we've got to find a way to allocate the resources to get the students the help they need. And you're going to have to remind me of the last part of the question.
Yeah, is there anything in the curriculum that you'd like to see changed?
You know, I have not looked a lot at the curriculum in the school system. I do know one thing. And I've shared it. I've shared it through my social media. I've shared it through LinkedIn. There is a massive shortage of skilled labor. I would like to see an expansion of skilled labor in Columbus County schools. We have CCCA, which is located on the far end of the county. You know, is there a way that we could move that more centrally so more students could take advantage of it?
Thank you. See, Shane, you'll be next.
Repeat.
Sure. How can we improve our underperforming schools, many of which are located in the poorest areas of the county? And are there any curriculum changes you'd like to see?
Providing more of what their needs are in the poorest parts of the county, focusing on it, even getting involvement. It takes involvement to find out what are the problems in the schools. Also, in dealing with that part, it takes a lot of changes. May go in and see there's some changes need to be made. Not just big educational changes, maybe minor changes. Each one has to be looked on one-on-one basis, is the way I feel about that in each part of the county, because you have them in each section of our county schools. Each one is different the way I look at them. And what was the last part?
Just, are there any changes in curriculum you'd like to see?
Yes, there are. There's a lot that I would like to see and hopefully implement myself and help implement, is to see more offered in our county schools for our students than just what's being offered now. There's a beginning, but I think it can be more broader, more technology, and more opportunities. Yes, CCCA, great school. I have 3 kids, one finishing up in now, and my other 2 graduated. It's an excellent school. Yes, it's in a far part of the county, and I would also like to see, as Mr. Strickland's shared, yes, it does need a new relocation because it is a great number of one school looked at in Columbus County. Thank you.
Thank you.
First, I would like to start by saying that we have some great teachers and great students in Columbus County. And when we look at the paper and we see our report cards for the different schools, I think we see the different grades and underperforming and met expectations and all of those things. There's some things that are put on our schools by the state that they just can't get around. And one of those things, and just to harp on, but our exceptional children are graded the same way as the other students. And that's factored into our report cards. And so when we look at those, we have to keep things like that in mind. So some things we are held to, or that's just out of our control. So we would take a look at our schools that are performing well or are meeting expectations and learn from those schools. If we're all in the same school system, we should all be on the same page. So we should all look at one another, and competition is good, but it's all within the same county school system. Let's learn from one another and find out just what it is that they're doing that another school may not be doing. As far as curriculum change, I'm come from an educated family. My mother and I have 3 aunts that all retired and school teachers. I have well over 100 years of education in my family, readily put at my fingertips to ask questions, and I currently have a sibling that is a teacher now. One thing that I've noticed is teachers are teaching to a test versus teaching children basic reading skills, scholastic skills. How can I pass a test to read a question if I can't read to begin with? So we need to get back to teaching our children basic education. Thank
And Rashad, if you'll do your 1-minute closing statement, and then Ronnie and Shane, if y'all follow up with that.
Sure. You've heard all of us talk tonight, and you've heard education be on the forefront. Education is key. Education is key to our county. When people look to move somewhere, they look for education, they look for jobs, they look for social activities / church. If Columbus County is falling behind in 2 or 3 of those areas, we have to put education first. Our children truly are our future. We are set in what we are doing, but we are here for our children. So come November 6th, starting tomorrow with early voting, I have a dog in the fight. I have 2 children. I have 1 in college currently. I have 2 that are still here in the system. I ask, starting tomorrow, that you would trust me with your children by voting for me. Thank you.
I was sitting there thinking, and for those of you that don't know, I work for Cardinal Health. When I graduated from pharmacy school in 1992, I couldn't imagine doing what I do today because it didn't exist. There was no way that you could do it. There was no way anybody could make me believe that a pharmacist could sit in North Carolina in a cubicle and process medication orders for a patient that is being admitted in a hospital in Texas. And that's what my pharmacists do. I've got 75 plus pharmacists up and down the east coast of North Carolina. We are at the forefront of the technological advancement in healthcare. I want to see that for Columbus County schools. I want to see Columbus County schools setting the standard. We've done it with remote pharmacy services. We can do it in education. Thank you.
Again, I'm Shane Enzer, District 2, Columbus County Board of Education nominee. I ask for your vote, support. First of all, your prayers. Soul searching, you decide. You make that decision. I promise to do my best. But I will tell you this. With God as my leader and the children in my heart, to do the best, because I have one child that's in the Southeastern Community College right now that come out of early college, going to graduate next spring. I have one that's a employee in Columbus County Schools. Have a third one. He is a sophomore. They've turned out to be terrific through the CCCA. I've been on the CCA since it was established. I ask for your vote, your support, your prayers. Thank you.
All right, let's have some applause for these candidates. Thank you, guys. All right, our last race of the night is Whiteville City School Board. We've got 2 seats. One is at large with Coleman Barber and Elgin Collier, and then District 1, Carlton Prince and Anna Richardson. Yeah, thank you. Coleman, you'll be first, Elgin second, Carlton third, and then Anna fourth.
Test.
And everybody gets a 1-minute opening statement. Coleman, you start us and we'll come this way.
I am Coleman David Barber. Coleman D. Barber is what you will see on my sign. I am a 40-year educator. As a matter of fact, I am a lifetime educator. And I have done 30 years in Whiteville City Schools and 10 years in South Carolina. And presently, I am on the North Carolina School Board Association. So I have much desire to continue to be a school board leader and to help children do the right thing and to get the right education. Because with the right education, you can get into the right opportunities. So if you get an opportunity to vote, vote for me.
Good afternoon. How are you doing? My name is Elgin Collier, and at-large candidate, Whiteville City Schools here. I'm actually a product of Whiteville High, graduated from Morgan State University, born and raised here. My goal is to bring change that's much needed within the school system, especially with the Whiteville City School Board. My background is really with at-risk youth, some with senior citizens and so forth. But one thing that I find is when the children have a voice or someone to speak for them, they can go far. I want to be that voice. Also, my thing is with the teachers, I think they need to be heard, and I want to be that voice for the teachers as well. Thank you.
Thank you for having this forum, and I'm delighted to be here. I am Carlton Prince, a longtime educator and teacher, both in K-12 and at the college level. I have a heart and a passion for education, and I am so thrilled to hear all of the speakers tonight putting emphasis on education. And I would add in that the governance of education should belong to the local unit, because many of the interruptions today are brought about by state mandated testing and curriculum. So I know that I have the experience, I have the heart and the commitment, and my professional life shows that. Children first, and God bless teachers, they're the greatest.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Anna Hall Richardson, and I am also running for the District 1 seat. I am a third-generation teacher. My grandmother was a teacher, my mom was a 40-year veteran, and I currently am a teacher. So I don't make decisions, or as a board member, I would make decisions as a teacher. I teach here at Southeastern Community College. I'm an English teacher here. I have experience in middle school, high school, with curriculum, with actually coaching teachers how to teach more effectively. And now I teach Whiteville City School students in my classes every single day at Southeastern. So I really want to be that voice for teachers and students because I have relationships with them. People ask me all the time, why in the world are you doing this? I'm led to do this. I want to be their voice. I have relationships. I know them. They're not names and numbers. They're actual students to me. I have 2 children myself, a 9-year-old who attends Edgewood Elementary and a 6-year-old who attends Whitman Primary. Thank you.
All right, thank you. First question, so the order will be Elgin, you'll go first, and then Coleman, Anna, and then Carlton. This is kind of the obligatory question for the school board races tonight, but what are your thoughts about merger?
Merger, wow, that's tough. I would have to have some more input, more info on that. But like I said, man, the school system where we were brought up, it's just a different fabric. It's like you're in Whiteville City Schools, you're from primary, you're taught to be part of the Wolfpack Pride. And I like to keep it that way. I don't think the merger would be a bad thing if it's looked at later on. But for right now, I think Whiteville City needs to stay Whiteville City. I think we need to improve, the technology that you have there, the relationship that you have with the parents and students and so forth. So right now, I like to keep it competition. Maybe you say it's, background in sports and all that, student athletes sort of business, but hey, that's what we were born and bred, that way. So it's friendly competition, but we always challenge Brother Rashad and them guys at West Columbus, and we still talk about those things to this day, and I think that's important. Now, the funding, I can't really expound on that because I don't know too much about that yet, but when, the data comes back, we can look into it, but for right now, I don't think so.
Coleman.
I am certainly against merger of Whiteville City Schools and Columbus County Schools. The reason is that I do not want to see us lose employment. I do not want to see the county lose employment, because when we move, if we were to move to one district, then one district would have employment loss, and that would be a terrible thing for people and for this county. We can't afford that. The other thing is, I think that we are good financial managers of our money, and we have been thrifty, and we have done the right things for students with that money, and we've gotten the right resources for students with that money. So I think you have to be a good manager of finances, and that is very, very important. I think we have to have a great care for our teachers, and we do in Whiteville City, and we take care of them appropriately so that they can have the resources that they need in order to teach students at a level that is above average. So I think that we might lose that, and I don't want to lose that. I think there is a partnership with teachers, students, and administrators so that they can keep the learning process going. Teachers are learning, students are learning, administrators are being good leaders, and consequently we're getting good productivity as far as academics are concerned. So I'm very concerned about that. I think that we need to be separate school systems.
Yeah, let's see. So Anna, yes, you're next.
Well, I will always support Whiteville City Schools, and I will fight against the merger, not because of any type of emotions, but because I don't think it would benefit students in either district. People talk a lot about merging the systems in order to save money as far as the central office, but those positions are mainly funded by the state. So yes, you would save money, but it would go right back to Raleigh and be dispersed somewhere else. You're not saving any type of local monies. I also think that it's important to really analyze, and for the county commissioners to really analyze the study that's being done by Emerald Education that will be presented in November, because I truly think that the numbers will prove that it won't benefit students in Columbus County or in Whiteville City. Thank you.
I am definitely against the merger of the two school systems. Tonight, we have heard much about money, 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 and money is important. If we were to merge, we would lose the Whiteville City school system, that is, would basically lose control over many of its dollars and thus become victims of the control from some other source. We would not have a Board of Education. We would not have a superintendent. We could not make decisions about curriculum. And there are many other areas which would not benefit. Bigger is not always better. More red tape in government is not always better. So in Whiteville City, we have wonderful teachers who get to see their children frequently. They are good role models. We have a close-knit family. We're small enough to know one another, to share one another's problems, and to work together to solve one another's problems. And that is exactly what a school system should do. We have been very successful in moving forward in many ways. We're not where we want to be, but our scores, and you have seen them in the paper, and our success and the quality of teachers we do get and the programs we offer our children speak for themselves. So again, I am totally committed to maintaining the Whiteville City School system, and I make no bones about that, and I'm on a stump for it, because education is my life and has been my life, and children and teacher are the keys to our success.
So Carlton, you're next up for our next question, followed by Anna, Coleman, and then Elgin. The question is, what changes, if any, would you make in curriculum at any grade level and why?
Thank you, Les. That's a very good question. I do think that curriculum has to continually be evaluated, and unfortunately, curriculum has seldom gone through a weeding, W-E-E-D-I-N-G process. And it is a responsibility of all of us who are in education to make the education that our children today are receiving a 21st century education. We're not in the 1900s. We are in the 2018. So yes, curriculum has to be made more appropriate for today's economy, for today's opportunities. How many of you even had a computer in high school? Today, we have first graders who are working on computers. We have to bring the entire educational system, its curriculum, its resources, its facilities, the payment for teachers. They are professionals. They are the backbone. They need to be treated like professionals. And it is a primary responsibility of board members to support those teachers and those students in getting the very best 21st century resources, materials, facilities. And so, yes, there's much need. Bring us into the 21st century from K to 12, and that includes reading, writing, arithmetic, science, technology, history, thinking skills, and of course, being good citizens, loving one another, supporting one another, and making this country great.
But I actually taught at Whiteville High School for 9 years. And so I know a lot of the problems firsthand that students in Whiteville City Schools actually face. One major curriculum problem that we have right now is the absence of writing. And yes, I am an English teacher, and writing is very important to me. But writing is a skill that is used in every discipline, in every job, regardless if you're a blue-collar worker or a CEO, you must know how to write. Because of the pressure of standardized testing, and I was a teacher who was pressured by standardized testing. I did what I had to do to get my scores. But because of that, a lot of times writing takes a back seat to multiple choice test preparation. And it's a huge problem because when kids get to college, how are they assessed? They're assessed by their writing. So we are setting them up for failure by not preparing them starting in kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade. The other curriculum problem that I know firsthand is what I like to call the middle of the road students. Those are students who are maybe C average students. They can go either way. If you push them, they can go up. If you ignore them, they can go down. And I feel like Whiteville City Schools has ignored these students a lot in the past. We cater to the cream of the crop, and we serve the exceptional children. But what about the regular kids who may not have a lot of influence at home, the ones who have the intellect but have never been pushed? I think these are two areas that I know I could make some changes. Thank you.
Academically, reading is the most important thing that there is. And we need to do and use all research programs that we can use to get students to read better so that they comprehend better as they understand, and as they do write, they are writing so that it can be read and understood clearly. That's really important. I don't think that we are pushing our top 40% of the students as much as we should. We need to drive them a little more. We need to reach and drive the middle student, drive them more. The exceptional program, drive it more. There should be a continuous drive for progress, and it should go from top to bottom. And it should be well structured with good academic research programs. You just can't sling it in there. You got to go by the research program. And our teachers must know how to use those programs. So consequently, they have to have good professional development. That's really important. Now, I do think that having a STEM program, and if you put the A in there for arts, it becomes STEAM, but we need those programs to be good. They need to be very, very good. The science program, the technology program, the math program, the arts program. We need to make sure that our students are getting all of that. Then you're getting a well-rounded education. And so when you go off to the college or university, or when you go into the workplace, you are able to think, you are able to create, and you are able to invent with technology.
Sure. What changes, if any, would you make in curriculum at any grade level, and why?
I have to see a clear layout, but my thing is pretty much hands-on, but that background in those at-risk students, or just students themselves, I think the teacher's aides needs to be back. Right now you have families that may have a mother and father there, but then you may have that family that has a grandparent or just a guardian. And sometimes it helps, well, a lot of times it helps, to have that extra hand, that person who shows a little bit of empathy, if you will, towards the student. That makes a difference in their day. I mean, I work with people every day. I'm at the rest homes every morning, and I got senior citizens pulling on me to try to get care. I think it's a possibility. I'm not sure how the transportation is. You could bus some of those students so they could get, a sense of what the real world is really like beyond sitting in a classroom all day. I think the students need more recess. I'm not going to say free time, where they can learn how to compete. Reading is very important. I worked with a lot of gang members in the DC area for a while, and one of the main things that I noticed was that the toughest guy couldn't read. He just had what you call the gift of gab. He could make it in the world, but he couldn't read a newspaper. So versus seeing me as a threat, or just some slouch with a shirt and tie on, it took some, I guess I would call her a neighbor, 15, say, okay. It took actually the secretary, who was a female, who had to let me know where this kid had come from, a little bit of background that I didn't have on the kid. So that's my thing, man. Really in short, I think that bringing the teachers' aides back or some assistance throughout the day would really benefit our students and to keep their mind where it should be.
All right, our last question of the evening. So this will go to Coleman, and then Elgin, then Anna, and Carlton. What worries you most about the future of public education, and what can be done to better support it?
What worries me most about the future of education? That we are preparing students now for jobs that we have no idea as to what they will be. Not right now. So what worries me is that, are we teaching them to think? are we teaching them to use that thinking in order to be creative and inventive? So when they get into that future, they will be able to think it through. They'll be able to think it accurately and quickly. And they will be able to do whatever that opportunity desires for them to do. And the worry is that we are not pushing that progressivism the way that we should. And that's the thing that may cause some problems in the future. What was the second part of that question?
Sure. What are your worries about public education and what can be done to better support it?
What can be done to better support it? We need to take advantage of all the technology opportunities that we can. Give those students those opportunities because they will be working with lots of technology. Give them as much as we can give to them to get them to think. And I mean top-level thinking, not just thinking, which comes along with reading and writing and doing what is necessary to be progressive. This is a long discussion. I wish I could talk much longer, but she got a 15-second call. But
Okay, Elton, you're next, yeah.
This is a question.
Sure. What worries you most about the future of public education and what can be done to better support it?
What worries me is having the same old run-of-the-mill type of deal that we've been dealing with forever, for the last decade or so. My wife and I, my son was actually kicked off the basketball team, AB student. So we started a program. It's basically no books, no basketball. Meaning if your academics are not there, it's not just basketball, no sports are there. And that made a difference in a couple kids' lives. Brought a couple championships to Central Middle School, but I wasn't an approved volunteer, so they kind of shunned that. This is a free program after school. My wife's teaching school, and they destroyed it for no apparent reason at all other than a school employee. Now, what's the second part of your question? I'm sorry.
Sure. The future of public education and what can be done to better support it.
Well, you got to have change, and I want to be a part of that change. That's why I want your vote. I need to get in there so we can get some things done. One thing I believe in is confidence. And back to, you have to teach confidence to those children. I assisted with girls, and they're girls, but I'm telling you, the intensity level was crazy. First, we had 10 to 12 students. Then we had a total of like 20. And my thing is, there's not enough inclusiveness with the at-risk kids or the EC program. They're not included with the regular staff. When I go to pick my kid up from school or something, they're at the end of the hallway. The principal never goes there. And the lady is constantly asking me, what do you do? Can you just be here sometime? Because I have to call a resource officer to calm my classroom down. So really, Les, you need inclusiveness. I mean, you know me, I'm an advocate. I'm going to probably be knocking on your door about some stuff or some help that I need, but my whole thing is it's inclusiveness. Thank you.
Okay, Anna, what worries you most about the future of public education and what can be done to better support it?
One of my major worries, and I'm really good at worrying, by the way, but one of my major worries is the mental health crisis that is happening right now for the younger generation. Study after study after study shows that the more time a child spends on technology, mostly social media, the more apt they are to be depressed. So we're living in a generation with the highest suicide rate of all time. Yes, bullying is part of that. Yes, self-esteem is part of that. But when kids log on to social media and spend hours in isolation looking at what other people are doing, it affects them greatly. So I feel like this is a time that we're facing a mental health crisis, and it's sort of the elephant in the room. We don't have school counselors who actually counsel students. They are burdened with test administration and other duties like that. We don't have a school psychologist in Whiteville City Schools. We have social workers who are spread so thin that they can't tend to the cases that they have. So I feel like in order for our kids to achieve, they have to have mental stability. And these kids are suffering with problems that you and I could not even imagine. In my 17 years in the public schools, I have had probably 10 kids come up to me and talk about thoughts of suicide. Me, their English teacher. Okay, so you think about the number that's out there that need real professional help. So I think that's what worries me the most, because I feel like it's an issue that continues to be ignored.
The thing that worries me most about public education is exactly what Anna was just talking about. The schools have been given the responsibility for too many things, and public education should first be about educating children in the main disciplines of reading, writing, arithmetic, science, technology, social studies, thinking skills, all of that. But let me tell you, my friend, the school is the stage on which the ills of society is played. We have to take care of them when they cannot take care of themselves. They come to school unprepared, unloved, and undirected. We do need social workers, psychologists, nurses, people who can do tracheotomies, people who can do all kinds of things. Now, there are requirements put upon the school which the school is not equipped to handle. We should be about the academics. We should be about teaching every child. And think about it. No two people in this auditorium tonight are exactly alike. We don't have the same academic intellect. We don't have the same social needs. We don't have the same anything else. We are different. And yet we ask a teacher to take 25 students who are vastly different. So getting all of that handled is a monumental task. So I agree we need to relook at what we're doing in education and get back on target of educating.
So Carlton, you can get us started on our 1-minute closing statements, and we'll go from you to Coleman and on down the line.
Thank you. I hope that you can tell that I really have a heart for every child. And I do wish that every child came to school prepared to learn from a home which supports, appreciates, and respects the school, and that he is taught to be a good citizen. Folks, we have a monumental task. We need your support on the quarter-cent sales tax. We need your support in talking to your senators, congressmen on the state and national levels and the local levels about what the schools can and should be doing, and that we are there primarily for the educational, academic applications for every child who comes to us.
At the very outset, I said, vote for me. And I'm still saying, vote for me. Your vote will not be lost. I have the interests of children in my heart. I have the interests of a strong academic program in my heart. And it's not for one child, it's for all of them. We stretch all of them so that they can learn to be the best that they can be and go on and take advantage of opportunities that will make them even better than what they thought they could be. That's important. And that's why I would like to be on this school board. We need the 1/4 cent sales tax to do all the things that I have mentioned here and my colleagues here. To do all those things, we need it. We need to provide the best facilities that we can give to them with all the right technologies and group settings that they can get to be better. Vote for me, Coleman D. Barber, at large.
Thank y'all. We're wrapping up a rough road, but I stand here. I need your vote November 6th. I have had to advocate for my daughter who was assaulted by staff at Whiteville High School, and these men have done nothing but give me the runaround. I have seen a different video. My wife, who teaches at Central Middle School, was shown a different video. We got to get rid of them. God bless you guys, but this has got to stop. Sexual assault by staff, and then we're not showing a video. We had to contact Raleigh Department of Instruction to even get a video. Yeah, I mean, you know, the time is up, and it is time up. So November 6th, let's get it done, because these are the same people who are going to make you look bad once we do get the paperwork done to Raleigh. God bless you.
So, in closing, I was thinking, what do I want voters to know about me? And I guess I want them to know that I'm not a politician at all. This is so far out of my comfort zone. I teach English, but what I do know is that I have a servant's heart. I know that teaching is my passion. I know education. I know kids. I know how to talk to people. And I know that I've been led to this point in time for this position. So as you leave here tonight, I want to give you a charge. Here's your charge. Ask any teacher in Whiteville City Schools who's right for the job. Ask any students who know me who's right for the job. Ask all the people in the community who are of my generation, who need a voice and need to take on leadership roles, who's right for the job. Thank you.
All right, round of applause for all of our school board candidates. So that concludes our evening. I think you'll all agree that we had some outstanding candidates, and we're going to have some outstanding people who will serve us in various capacities. On behalf of the chamber, thank you to all of you who are either in office or are putting yourselves forward to run for office, because I'm in the newspaper business. I see just how tough it can be. A lot of late nights, a lot of phone calls, and it takes it's really special to put yourself out there. So thank you for that. And lastly, the 1/4 cent sales tax. You know, today BB&T had a major announcement. They're going to invest $20 million in Columbus County. I think it makes a real strong statement about us. I think we're on the cusp of some really good things in Columbus County, but we gotta finish that thing off with a 1/4 cent sales tax, because you've heard across the board from any race how important education is. It's failed 3 times. I think we can pass it this time because people know how important it is. But my challenge to you is, don't just say you're for it. Engage people on the 1/4 cent sales tax. If somebody says, well, I don't think we need it, tell them why, because it's that important. So thank you, and have a nice evening.